Crockett goes over to the dark side on Miami Vice's utterly shattering Season 4 finale. Mirror Image was directed by Richard Compton and was written by Robert Palm and Daniel Sackheim from a story idea by Sackheim and Nelson Aramis. This is Aramis' sole writing credit. He is the former Miami-Dade Police Department chief and was Miami Vice's police technical advisor. This is a very well done episode with a lot of big surprising twists, so if you've never seen it before, or if you watched it so long ago that you've forgotten what happens, I'm going to suggest that you watch it first before watching this recap, just to treat yourself to a really satisfying hour of television. We open with Crockett and Tubbs sitting by the water, chatting before an assignment. Crockett is still in deep grief about Caitlin's murder. He's outwardly fine, but he seems burned out and exhausted to his core, and Tubbs is openly concerned about his partner. Crockett assures him he can handle the assignment. Undercover as Sonny Burnett, he's going to go on a yacht and help broker a peace treaty between various Miami crime kingpins, all of which has been arranged by a crime lord named Miguel Manolo. On the yacht, while the assembled crime lords celebrate the treaty, Crockett chats with Manolo's right-hand man Alejandro, who is played by Antonio Fargas, best known as Huggy Bear on Starsky and Hutch. Crockett stirs up a bit of trouble by dropping a hint to Alejandro that Manolo might be out to get him. Shortly thereafter, Alejandro plants a bomb in the yacht. As he's urging Crockett to escape with him in a speedboat, the yacht explodes. Back at Vice headquarters, everyone is gutted about Crockett's presumed death. Tubbs throws himself into his work, trying to find out who blew up the yacht, but Castillo tells him it's now a homicide case. Crockett wakes up in a sketchy medical clinic, receiving care from a doctor under the supervision of Alejandro, who is desperate to find out what Crockett knows about Manolo. Crockett can't tell him, though, because he has amnesia caused by the explosion. From the doctor, he learns that he's a drug dealer named Sonny Burnett, and Crockett sees no reason not to believe him. With his memories still gone, Crockett accompanies Alejandro to Manolo's mansion in Fort Lauderdale. Manolo is played by dancer Tony Azito, who I love. He played the police sergeant in The Pirates of Penzance. This is the Kevin Kline, Linda Ronstadt version, both on Broadway and in the 1983 film version. And he gives this incredibly cool, weird, acrobatic, hilarious performance, and I highly recommend it. Manolo's assistant is a beautiful woman named Polly Walker, who is played by a pre-famed Julia Roberts in what was pretty close to her first role. Sparks immediately fly between Crockett and Polly. Tubbs, who is still informally working on the case, even though it's been taken out of Vice hands, tracks down one of Manolo's employees, a woman named Doris, played by burlesque star Camille Sands. Doris tells him he can find Manolo in Fort Lauderdale. Tubbs meets with Castillo at headquarters to tell him he's taking some time off to go to Lauderdale and get to the bottom of Crockett's death. Manolo throws a party at his mansion, at which Bedbugs and Ballyhoo by Echo and the Bunnymen plays while Crockett and Polly flirt. Alejandro has been faking an arm injury, which he claims he received in the boat explosion. Crockett remembers Alejandro using both arms in the medical clinic, so he tells Manolo that Alejandro was behind the boat explosion. With his memories still missing, Crockett goes out with Manolo's goons on a drug buy. When the buyers attempt to double-cross, Crockett very calmly shoots and kills one of the thugs. In Lauderdale, Tubbs meets with an old friend at the local police department, Sergeant Orlando Jordan, who is played by Brent Jennings, with small roles in the episodes Heart of Darkness and The Home Invaders, and who recently starred in AMC's Lodge 49. Jordan can't help him with his investigation into Manolo because his department has a known leak on Manolo's payroll. In Jordan's office, Tubbs meets Detective Jimmy Yagovich, played by Chris Cooper, Best Supporting Actor Oscar winner for Adaptation. Manolo sends Crockett and Alejandro out together for another drug buy. The buyers never show up, and Crockett receives a call from Manolo halfway through. Crockett hangs up the phone without ever saying a single word, which is pretty cool. And we never hear Manolo's side of the conversation, but it's clear that Manolo has ordered Crockett to kill Alejandro, which Crockett does without hesitating. Jordan calls Tubbs to tell him Alejandro's corpse popped up in Fort Lauderdale. Since Alejandro, like Crockett, is supposed to have died in the yacht explosion in Miami, Tubbs is very curious about this. Undercover, he visits an art gallery owned by Manolo and tells Polly he'd like to do business with her boss. Tubbs asks Jordan for $10,000 in front money to do business with Manolo. Jordan reluctantly agrees but insists that Tubbs wear a bulletproof vest. Detective Yegovich, who is Manolo's mole, calls Manolo to tell him that Tubbs is an undercover cop from Miami who is investigating the death of his partner, Sonny Crockett, who was undercover on Manolo's yacht. It doesn't take much for Manolo to realize that Sonny Crockett is Sonny Burnett, Although he's a little confused because Burnett has been running around murdering people on his orders, which vice cops really aren't supposed to do. He tells Tubbs to show up in the alley behind the art gallery to make a deal. And here we have a fantastic sequence set to the upbeat strains of Money God by Big Pig, in which Tubbs strolls down the dark alley with a briefcase full of cash. A black-clad Crockett steps out of the shadows and coldly shoots Tubbs twice in the chest, then checks to make sure he's not moving before continuing down the alley. Afterward, Crockett has a surreal dream scored to Alpha Centauri by electronica pioneers Tangerine Dream, in which he imagines himself and Tubbs in coffins on the beach. He wakes up in bed with Polly. Apart from some bruised ribs, Tubbs is fine thanks to the vest, though he's deeply confused as to why his presumed dead partner and closest friend, A, is still alive, and B, just tried to murder him. Tubbs calls Castillo to ask him to ask Fort Lauderdale's Internal Affairs Department about their investigation into the leak in Jordan's department. Upon seeing Tubbs alive and well in Jordan's office, Yegovich calls Manolo to tell him Crockett didn't murder Tubbs. So Manolo orders Yegovich to kill Crockett. Castillo tells Tubbs that Internal Affairs is pretty sure Yegovich is the leak. So Tubbs races to the art gallery, where Yegovich is getting ready to kill Crockett at the docks outside. Instead, Crockett shoots and kills Yegovich, then zips off in a speedboat as Tubbs stands on the shore and yells after his partner. Season 4 has had some of the highest highs and the lowest lows of all of Miami Vice, and this is way up there with the highest of the highs. I absolutely love this episode. It takes what sounds like should be an utterly ridiculous story idea. Crockett gets amnesia and turns evil, and pulls it off. I love how it's filmed in a very cold and stylized manner. I love the use of mirrors to suggest that Crockett has become a dark mirror image of himself. And I love all the guest stars. Tony Azito, Brent Jennings, Chris Cooper, and Antonio Fargas all do great work. Julia Roberts has very little to do other than flirt with Crockett, which she does very well. And watching her in this, it's very easy to see that she would become one of the world's most bankable movie stars within a year or two of this episode. Don Johnson manages to make Sonny Burnett an entirely different character than Sonny Crockett. He is cold, hard, lethal, and empty. Johnson's always good in this role, but this is a revelatory performance. By the way, this is the final episode to be scored by Jan Hammer. Throughout season 4, he'd been splitting composition duties with John Peterson, and in season 5, composition will be taken over by Tim Truman. Throughout 4 seasons, Hammer's music just became kind of an iconic, integral part of Miami Vice, and he will be missed. Season 4, though, is ending on as high of a note as possible, and I'm giving it 5 big, fat, well-fed flamingos. Next time, we will jump right into Miami Vice's final season with the ongoing murderous adventures of Sonny Burnett, while his former colleagues at Vice try to figure out what the hell happened to their friend. This is one of Miami Vice's most splendidly entertaining storylines, so I'm really happy about finally reaching this stretch of episodes. I will meet you here later to talk about them, and have a great week.